Hi, everyone. My name is Lynette Davis with LynetteDavis.com, and I'm super excited to bring you once more and again my annual birthday celebration Be the Change series. So I am super excited about my guest. I met her all the way in Spain just to find out that she lives right across the bridge in Philadelphia. Go figure. But my special guest is going to tell me more about who she is and what she does in the nonprofit work that she's involved with. And I'm so excited to hear what she has to say. So I would like to welcome Miss Karla Thut. Hi, Karla.
Hi, Lynette. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
So thank you so much for coming on. So let's just jump right in, right?
Mhm.
So, Karla, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do, because I know that you're a private practice
Mhm.
therapist or counselor. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, so I've been a social worker in Philadelphia for about 16 years. And I worked for a long time, primarily with two nonprofits in the city. One was Congreso de Latinos Unidos, and one is called the Anti-Violence Partnership of Philadelphia. And in both settings, my role was very much, I functioned much more as a therapist and educator. And I worked with, so victims and co-victims of domestic violence and victims of crime. And through that work, especially, actually both places, I got to work a lot with undocumented immigrants and other immigrant families and individuals who had been either in situations of domestic violence or had been victims of crime. And so had was what we call layers of trauma. And so through that, I got involved with a nonprofit called La Puerta Abierta, and I'm on their board. And the work that they do is they provide mental health services to immigrant youth, which is something that you don't, and it's not something that you find a lot of nonprofits doing that kind of work anywhere in the U.S. Really, there's some agencies similar to La Puerta Abierta, but it's a pretty unique work to really go into the schools and do some individual counseling with immigrant youth.
That sounds so exciting, especially because immigration is such a hot topic right now.
Mhm.
And a lot of people sometimes I think to disassociate themselves with, we don't want to have to do with that, or, if they're illegal, then they just need to go this way, or if they are legal, then whatever. But we don't think about things like, there's trauma there, and there's need for this mental health care and these mental health services.
Yeah,
So
it's really interesting when not necessarily just people who are undocumented. Documented immigrants also, can have a lot of the same, trauma history or similar. But if you think about it, you have families and individuals who are leaving their countries sometimes because they're too poor, and so they can't make it, they just, even basic needs they can't provide for their families or for themselves. So you have that layer. Then you have violence in their countries. Sometimes people come because they've gotten death threats. I know in Central America there's a big problem with gangs, and so a lot of that gang activity is very violent, and people are fleeing for their lives. So you've got that layer. Then the trip in itself, a lot of undocumented people in this country or immigrants come by airplane, but there are the ones who come by foot, who take that trip, and that sometimes can be another layer of trauma. And then, it's interesting, immigrants, whether, you're coming legally or not legally, you're crossing the border, not legally, there's often a sense that once you arrive, once you come to the United States, or, or you make it to Europe, or, wherever your destination is, you're seeking work and you're seeking peace and you're seeking safety more than anything, right? That things will be fine once you arrive. But what happens often is that once people arrive, they realize that there's a whole bunch of other hurdles to get through. And so, whether it's, dealing with the sentiment that this country has, towards immigrants, in this day and age, the political rhetoric, finding work, all the different hurdles that immigrants have to go through. And so often people sort of go, oh, wait a minute, I thought I was coming here and I was gonna feel better or, achieve the safety, and here I'm having to deal with these other things. As especially when people are very young and come and, don't really know the family members that they are coming here to meet, don't know them well. And so it's like reconnecting with family, learning to trust family, family sort of, reuniting and figuring out how they're going to be a family again, how they're going to function as a family, or if there isn't any family here, figuring things out, figuring out a community, figuring out how to get resources, how to get themselves in a good place. So it's a lot of stuff that we don't always think about with immigrants.
Mm-hmm. That's so very true. And, I liken it to, and this is putting it on such a small scale, but, for some people are like, well, I just don't relate to that. I liken it to when you're just moving to another place, how traumatic that is for some people, especially youth, kids, they love their schools and they love their friends. And now they have to, pick up and move and they have to start all over again. They had like this whole little movie about, about a girl who had to move to a new neighborhood. And it was like a mental health movie. And it was like kind of animated, actually. And they had all these little voices to represent her different little personalities. I'll have to think about the name of it later. But, just something like that. So just to make it relatable to other people who might be watching and are like, I don't get that. And I'm like, you kind of do, actually. These are things that, take it there at that base level and multiply it,
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, even just the transition that children experience from elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, the fear of the unknown, the having to make new friends, the needing to get used to a whole other system. I mean, and then amplify that, by 10 or 20. And that's what this youth are having to deal with when they're coming, and the reality is that for a lot of the youth, they don't get to stay children anymore. Even though they really have to grow up. They have to act like adults. For a lot of them, they're on their own, and or at least while they're making the trip, they're on their own, and so they have to really take care of themselves and figure things out by themselves.
So my question is, if someone's coming in to this and they're reading, they're reading some of the things that I'll share after the video on the blog, or they're watching this video and they're going, okay, this is starting to hit. I'm starting to understand some of the things like trauma with the youth and things of that nature. Why do you think someone would want to care about these issues that you in particular, and of course the other board members and the staff, whether they're volunteer staff or not, the issues that you are all working to build solutions for, if they're going, okay, there's a lot of nonprofits and there's a lot of great causes that, I'm really interested in. Why would I want to get involved with this one in particular?
Well, this is what I would say. The work that La Puerta Abierta does is pretty unique. And the reason to care, if you think about it more at a macro level, at a larger perspective, is that anytime you're willing to put time, energy into youth, into young people, you're sort of changing future. You're changing what, not just what can happen individually to those, to those kids, but it's a whole population of young people that will be adults. And so that's good for this country. If those can grow up, those youth can grow up to be functioning adults who can provide, to the economy, that can go on and become healthy citizens, or, healthy, immigrants in this country. That is always good for all of us. Those are our neighbors, people we ride buses or drive in cars next to. It's just like anytime we are willing to spend time and give to the youth, we're basically putting time, energy, and resources into the future, into, members of society that can be either doing really well or not doing well, if we are not willing to do that for them.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. So I know that you are doing this work and you're a board member, but you're also a business owner. And sometimes business owners feel as though like we're super, super busy with just our business, and we have a heart to give back, but we're not always sure how to help. So how do you think, in your own experience as a business owner, how can business owners and organizations like, and I don't want to mispronounce it, La Puerta? Am I saying? Okay.
Yeah, like the door, the open door. It's the translation.
I'm like, I'll leave it with that so I don't mess up the rest of the name. But how can other people combine their business superpowers with nonprofit superpowers and create real impact? And then could you share a little bit more about how you do it as a business owner?
Well, for me, primarily, part of going into private practice, was very personal to my family's needs and things like that. But what I can do with that is that I am able to see people, provide therapy for families who can't afford it sometimes, or charge a lot less for people who sort of need like that sliding scale. So that's something I do. I also do a lot of voluntary, give a lot of volunteer hours to different organizations who need either a training or, like a trauma training, or, if I need to come in and help, with supervision or anything like that, of other younger therapists, or help with some family case. That's what I do. As far as other business owners and other people, I think, anytime we're willing to, and you can do it mathematically, just decide what percentage of your time, of your income you're willing to give towards a good cause. I think it's just the right thing to do. That's sort of my, where my value system is, that if you sort of have the means or have the time to give, we don't always have, monetary ability to support, but sometimes we can give time or hours to something, then that's just something that we should do, that it's sort of that giving back, because I think all of us, regardless of your business, regarding of what you're doing, we've all been helped in some way, but by somebody else or by some agency or by something, even if it's just your parents. So giving back is a really good way to say thank you.
That is awesome. And you know what? I think it's a perfect segue to ask my signature question, which is, what does be the change mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I guess that feels very much like an action. Like sort of being willing to not focusing as much. Sometimes we can get really overwhelmed when we read the news or when we listen to what's going on in our world, and get really overwhelmed by everything, and not quite know what to do. And I think if we're better at narrowing or focusing on something where we can give back, where we can do something about, even if it's raising really great children, doing something that you're putting out good citizens, sort of a continuous daily action to make this world a better place, to be, not expecting either only other people to do it or big organizations to make change, but sort of being aware that we can, even in small ways, create that every day. So that's what I have for you.
I'll take it. Awesome. So I truly enjoyed this brief conversation and getting to know about the work that you've been up to.
Oh, thank you.
And just hearing about these organizations, because I know I was so excited when we had a chance to talk and you were telling me about this work, because I had several people going, I really want to help about this immigration situation, and I'm not sure in what capacity I can, and I don't know about what's a legit organization or what's not a legit organization. I'm like, we have some organizations and we have some people who are, their feet are on the ground doing this groundwork to help in all these different ways. And some people probably didn't think about, mental health trauma. So I'm so glad that we got to hear from you about that work and how it all ties into your profession too. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm already doing this for my own work and I want to do, something else. And I don't know what else to do but be that. And it's like, you know what? If you really love what you do, you can take it in so many different capacities. So I think that's really cool. So before we head out, or I should say before we end this call, what's one actionable piece of advice that you could give to someone who wants to tackle an issue like you did?
Well, I guess it's about looking deep within and figuring out what you care about. What sometimes I think, depending on what our own experiences have been or a loved one's experiences have been, that tends to, give us more emotional energy, and then, other kinds of energy to put into something. I think just taking the time to reflect on your own and think about what you care about. Sometimes we listen to something and it just sort of speaks to us, that should be the thing we need to put energy into. So I would say that would be my advice, just to listen from deep within to what it is you care about, and then put that energy there.
Awesome. That's some sage advice right there. And you know what? Because sometimes people, are always looking on well, I should do this or that, just kind of look within. Like, you've probably already encountered the things that you really care about.
Yeah.
To sit still and listen and listen to that voice on the inside. Like, I remember this really bothered me and I wanted to do something about it,
Yes.
So yeah, that's terrific advice. So how can our listeners and viewers get in touch with you after checking out this video and they want to connect and learn more about you as a private practice professional, or the organization that you work with?
Well, if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at karlathut@gmail.com, and that's Karla with a K, and Thut, it's THUT. And La Puerta Abierta has a website that you can check out. So lapuertaabierta.com, .org. You can check it out, read, about the work that they're doing, and just get yourself more informed about it.
Awesome. I'm so excited that you came. I'm so grateful. And, even though I didn't say it earlier, I I have to say, I bet they are really proud to have you as a board member because
Oh, thank you.
because there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are trying to, it's like pulling teeth to get their board members to get more involved and to get out there. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Lynette. It's so nice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So everyone, hopefully you enjoyed this show as much as I did. I sure enough loved it. And I hope you did too. Until the next time, take care, peace, love, and wellness.